Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, and I have another review for you. This is going to be from Marvel Comics. This is Kang issue number 4. It is written by Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly. Um, Artist is Carlos Magno. Then you got colors by Espen Grundetjern. I know I mispronounced that. Letters is VC's Joe Caramagna. At the end of the review, I'll show you off some of the art. In a nutshell, this is Nathaniel Richards, a Kang, that was Kang, went back to the beginning and met up with Nathaniel Richards, kind of, told him and showed him everything that was going to happen in Kang's known timeline. And now Nathaniel is supposed to be the better version. He was told not to love, but earlier on in the first couple issues, but he did meet Ravonna, or Ravonna. I'm gonna go with Ravonna, or Ravonna, I don't know. And she is ultimately killed off. He does, the last time we met Kang, he ends up going through his life and he tries to do things differently that Kang did. And the last issue, he had went back to the past and he had tried to do the Almontot version of Kang's history, and just like before, got blindsided by the Fantastic Four and had to jettison to the future. And at the last issue, we saw that he was in like the year 4000, and he had met up with like another reincarnation of Ravonna, and that's where this issue starts off. And it's basically Kang and Ravonna meeting up, and him kind of explaining, hey, I know you, and she doesn't know this guy. She's like, even though I look like this girl, I'm not this girl, and stuff like that. And he's trying to figure out how her soul, has been reborn again just thousands of years later. But in this future, it is very violent. It's very bleak. She is basically a conqueror, and when he runs into her, he quickly has to reaffirm her that he is like a conqueror, just like her. They go on this whole like kind of love like conquest thing where they go on this two-person killing spree, when eventually they take over this like kind of this armed tower or whatever, and they're about to make this kingdom. And he starts explaining that he loves her and he always has loved her and stuff like that, and that they don't need to be in this bleak future because he can time travel and stuff like that, so they could leave and be anywhere or anything they want to be. And she kind of flips the switch where she ends up like hating him. She ends up attacking him, and almost to the point where she almost kills him, and basically says because he has that love and this and that, that they'll never be on the same level of like conquerors or something like that. One moment. Dry throat. So eventually, this version of Kang, Nathaniel Richards, he does kind of, meager off, and he ends up like, he ends up sticking to the conquering thing, and he ends up like, instead of doing the love, he decides that he's going to stick to the conquering, and he finds that it's like the one thing that he can't control. And so he does go through like this timeline, and he pretty much like decimates that timeline and takes everything over, eventually finding this ancient machine that he was foretold that he was going to run into. This is where the original Kang had made his like time ship and the heart of his like most of his time travel, stuff like that, and this is where it all happens. So basically Kang ends up finding this ancient machine, and just like the previous Kang, he does the same thing where he makes most of his time machine technology inside this ancient machine. It's kind of also where he gets the name Kang, because as the machine is building the time travel technology or whatever it is some kind of like omni shield in his ship. But the pistons that are firing down, they do make a Kang as they hit down, and that's eventually where he comes up with the name Kang. And after this point, he starts calling himself Kang. After he gets his time after he does get his ship, and he gets all the technology that the previous king had, he does start to go back throughout time and just conquer everything. He starts at basically like medieval times. He goes through the quantum realm, and he finds this like supposedly these creatures that are the biggest bads in that realm. They were supposedly trying to hide. They show him fighting like the oldest version of Kang, and he says it was like he wasn't even a fight. He does show like him fighting like a super scroll and like Deathbird from the other realms of space, and basically that they were kind of easily conquered places, and eventually he goes into the future past the year 4000, because at this point he went back and he's been flopping all around, just kind of conquering everything that he could. And as he's doing so, he's also like putting technology in place and building this massive army, so it's in place in the future and in the past, that kind of stuff. But eventually he does go further into the future, and he runs into a different version of Ravonna. This one is still a conquering Ravonna, but she is past that. She is like a queen, and basically it's like the last city in this timeline that he needs to conquer, and he comes across this version of Ravonna, and ultimately he decides that even with his army and everything, that he could easily kill her and take over this kingdom and then move on to the next stage. But ultimately he decides to try. He figures there's got to be some reason that she keeps getting reincarnated, so he kind of does the opposite, where he's like, he's going to try to focus on the love, and he actually tries to win her heart the real way, where it's like, instead of like conquering on all this, he kind of shows her that he's a good guy, that kind of stuff. And at one point, like his army, like his lieutenant in command, or his general, something like that, Baltrog or something like that, like eventually gets mad at this idea. He even builds this like omni-matrix, like kind of TV looking system where he can look at everything throughout time, because he's trying to figure out the whole Ravonna mystery. But eventually his general kind of betrays him, backstabs him, and tries to overthrow Kang, because Kang is in this he's in this courtship type of thing with Ravonna, and eventually he does win her love, but it's only when this version of Kang, Nathaniel Richards, has to go against his own army that he built. Eventually, like some of the Avengers and the heroes kind of join Kang, and he says himself he does become a hero at this time. But as soon as this Ravonna falls in love with Kang, seeing the real Kang, the real man that he could be, that he doesn't have to be this mean, conquering, that he can be loving and kind and caring and all that other stuff, and after she sees that, right as that happens, like, he kind of drops his weapon and forgets about it, and they kind of like do this embracing stuff, and lo and behold, Baltrog behind him shoots Ravonna in the back, killing her, thus creating this like super ultra violent version of Kang, where he is on this mad rage, basically they show him at the end, and he is basically with Ravonna's body, and he is saying that this time, he has tried it so many times, and he tried to go opposite of Kang's flow. He tried to do love, he tried to go without love, he tried to be the conqueror, and finally we're getting to the time where it seems like he's finally going to try something different for the first time, but it has to do with like mixing all time together, is basically what he says, and it sounds like he's going to try and take all of like Ravonna's souls and mix her into one body kind of thing, and that's basically where this issue leaves off. I've said this before, but this is definitely one of Marvel's better reads. The art has been fantastic. I am not well versed in Kang, so hopping onto this book and them painting this whole layout of Kang's kind of, not his detailed history through Marvel, because I can imagine it's got to be way more detailed than this, but they're highlighting on most of the major events kind of thing, which I think is extremely dope. I'll show you all some of the art. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you're reading this series, let me know what you think. If not, does any of this even interest you, kind of thing. This is basically the beginning where he is meeting Ravonna. I'm just gonna kind of rush through some of this just to show you some of the art, give you a little taste. You know, that's them on their romantic conquering mission. Eventually, this is you know, the scene. She is like, "Screw you, dude." No, I'm not all about that love. I'm about that blood. You know. Eventually, he tries the conquering thing. He does all that. I will show you like this. This is the ancient machine and the Kang, Kang, Kang. Um, right here, and after he has built his, you know, it's that little like time bubble and everything. And basically, at this point, he just becomes a badass. And I'll kind of, this is kind of the last thing I'll show you. But this is him just going through time, King Arthur, and this is that quantum realm people. This is him fighting the older ancient one, and then, you know, the Super Skrull and Deathbird. Eventually, with the Super Skrull and Deathbird kind of dead back there. That's the future version of Ravana that he meets and tries to fall in love. I can show you a quick scene of the Avenger cameo. There you go. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver right there present. Got Cap. Alright, guys. I'll let y'all go. You have a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye!